Make sure everybody looks nice. All right.
Were you about to say Moses?
Huh? I would say your place looks really nice too. I like the art on your walls.
Thank you, bro. Yeah, you know me, bro. All the homies work. Homie Jazz hooked me up, blessed me with this one over here. Super dope, just like abstract John.
That's super dope. The one you just pointed to.
This one.
Yeah.
Love that, John, bro. And then it had like my colors, man, just like, you know, the red, black, silver, splash of gold. And then over here on this side is a John that me and Bruno collabed on. It's a Nipsey piece. And it says, it says, most people want to skip steps, not knowing that when you skip steps, you miss the lessons.
That's a very valuable, quote.
You know, I got to read that every day. Remind myself.
Oh, that stuck to my ribs, just hearing that.
A good John. It's kind of funny because I have a roommate. I don't know if you guys know Streets.
Yeah, no.
Of course.
Yeah, and then Streets ended up like going back to his family crib as soon as this whole thing started. I rearranged the whole crib once he left. He's gonna come back to it, John, and not recognize none of this shit.
New energy.
Oh no. All right, let me introduce this. Hold on. Oof,
yeah, take it away.
It's been a while. Welcome back to What Are You Talking About podcast. The very, 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 very special guest today, right, Mo? Like,
do we say very yet?
very special guest today. The incredible Will Toms today. Clap it up.
Yeah, let's clap it up.
Appreciate y'all.
Thank you so much for coming on, man.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here, man. I was watching y'all run some of these back into space and just seeing, the output. I'm like, yo, come on, y'all. Y'all gotta let me get up in this one time.
Yeah, definitely.
Really wish we could have did this all in person, but circumstances have prevented that. But the work doesn't stop, and just have to adjust to what we're given.
It's all love. That just means we got to do a part 2 when we do get back to the space.
Oh, absolutely.
An official part 2.
Facts.
Official part 2. But speaking of adjustments and everything like that, I don't want to get into what Rec Philly is because by this point, most of our audience knows who Rec Philly is and what they're about and everything that they do and that they have done for the city. How are you guys adjusting to, the workshop and everything that, Corona has done to, just halting every creative going there and, the creative workspace? How are you guys adjusting?
Yeah. So, Miss Rona didn't care nothing about us just opening a brand new space 4 months ago. That's for sure. So it's been one of those things to just kind of like roll with the punches, man. And, fortunately as creatives, what we do best is problem solve. So it's just really been a lot of problem solving. The day that the mayor said that, businesses were going to be shutting down, I think I went through like all the different stages of grief in that process. The first being like denial. Right? At first I'm like, nah, we ain't got to close. Like, this is essential too. We got artists out here that need to be creating, and I was about to die on that hill. But as things got more serious, we had to kind of, make the responsible decision to not put folks in danger, not put people's health at risk. But the second that the doors closed, it was one of those things where we had to take a step back and be like, yo, like, what is our value to our community in a time like this? And what we always cared about, and will continue to, is just making sure folks have access to the resources, the strategies to build their businesses and, connection to ourselves, like the community itself. So we just decided to say, yo, what tools can we be building right now to keep those things up? So, on the resources tip, we launched a blog, and we also launched some other cool tools just to say, yo, let's just make sure we're curating the right grants that are available for folks, the right, relief efforts that are going around in the city, which was really cool to see a lot of different businesses and organizations supporting creators in that way. So we wanted to stay focused on that. From the strategy standpoint, we've been doing tons of educational workshops and programming, and most of that has kept going. We just had to kind of pivot it to the digital space. So we're on Zoom all day, hosting these workshops and panels, doing all sorts of like creative coaching to give our members some hands-on, just like strategy and guidance when it comes to how they can, navigate this and build their businesses still. And then from the community standpoint, we launched like a Slack channel, a place for our community to connect with each other, chat in groups, one-on-one. And we also have a really cool tool we've been working on called Rec TV, which is actually going to be dropping soon, which is just going to be another really great place for us to just like share our work with each other, and do a lot of the stuff we got to do in the co-working space in real time, but just kind of figuring it out and honestly just learning together as we all navigate this and figure it out.
For sure. It's been a huge learning experience for just about everyone. And to kind of pivot off that, I want to ask, as someone that's really a leader in this community, in this creative space, what changes do you see happening, and what changes would you like to see in the community following all this? I feel like the silver lining of this all is it's really been a catalyst for change.
Yeah.
In a lot of places that needed it. So
yeah,
what do you think?
Yeah, so my thoughts, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think there's a couple different ways, I can answer this. The first one being, even for myself and our business, like it helped me realize right away that any business, whether you're, an artist or, a photographer, or you're running, a brick and mortar facility like we do, any business whose digital presence doesn't match or exceed the actual experience that you give your customers or your fans in real life is going to be vulnerable, right? So I think, for example, if I was a photographer and I make all my money shooting weddings or shooting concerts, if I don't have something available on my website to teach what I know, to, allow folks to buy products or buy prints, I'm super vulnerable because all my revenue is gone overnight, right? So I think I've learned, and I hope other creators are learning too, like your digital presence has to be just as valuable as what you can do in front of people. Because there may be moments like this where you can't get to people, but you still got to be able to bring in that revenue. And I think folks are learning the importance of products, right? Like when you're out getting it, performing services, there's a limit to how much you can do because there's only so many hours in a day. But when we can get to the point where like we have products for sale, whether they're digital products, like information products or music downloads, right? Or merchandise you can buy, that starts to make it so like we can really scale up our ability to earn. And I think folks are finally starting to notice that. So I'd like to see on the other side of this, creators just understanding, one, if I don't have a website, I'm drawing, right? We can't just depend on social media. And then two, if I don't have products available for people to buy, I'm probably leaving money on the table. So I'll say that. I think that's kind of just on like a personal creator tip. But then also I think on the other side of this, I think like I'm really bullish on this idea that the way we work is just going to be different. Like a lot of people are trying to like get back to like normal. I don't know if we're going to get back to normal, so to speak. I think there's going to be a new normal. And one of those things is like just the way we work. I think less people are going to be working traditional office jobs because they're going to have the ability to work from home. And I think people who maybe are just used to only working in that traditional 9 to 5, but Riley, I think they're going to try to find other ways to make money on the internet, knowing how much opportunity is out there. And people are going to be spending a lot more time in this digital space doing business, right next to, spending time on the internet, social media and all that. And then right next to doing what we do in our full-time jobs.
I do think that the coronavirus, the catalyst for really putting the internet age into like more of a boom. I think that there's going to be way more online shopping, even when this is over. I mean, Jeff Bezos just became a friggin' trillionaire allegedly. So I mean, keeping that, which is crazy. But I do think that artists are going to start taking more value into putting merch out and putting everything together. I know over here we're starting to get our online shop together and trying to figure out, all right, like we have to come up with the mask. I mean, Riley thought of the great idea of just making the mask because even when this is over, people are going to still have those concerns. Like I don't think that Corona is ever going to go away per se. But I think us as a human society, we're going to have to adjust and, adapt to what Corona has done, social distancing, being more clean and cleanly and, washing your hands and taking care of everything like that. But also as creatives now, you really have to be more well-rounded, I would say, because it could happen again. And, you want to be prepared for like, okay, like, hey, if my 9 to 5 stops, I have another source of revenue coming in from, clothes, merch, whatever you as a creative want to sell. So I do.
Yeah. And kudos to you guys. You guys are one of the first I saw, on the forefront of creating those masks and making sure that you can get them to people. And I thought that was super dope and timely. So yeah, shout out to y'all for being quick on your feet.
Thank you.
No doubt.
Yeah, man. I truly believe that we live in a golden age for creative entrepreneurship. I think about all the time, like, imagine if this epidemic would have hit 10, 15 years ago. It would have been a very different thing. We're lucky that we live in an age where we can still communicate with one another. We can still do business. We can still make revenue. There's options.
Yeah.
To follow up what you were saying before, there are many, many changes happening in the way that we work. I don't know if you saw that, Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, announced that all Twitter employees have the option to work from home permanently now.
Yeah.
I think that sends a huge shockwave through almost every industry. Like we're starting to see more and more businesses are understanding that they can operate without a retail space. And that's a beautiful thing. I think it gives people, you have less of a commute, you have more time to dedicate towards your passions. We have the internet that's connecting people. We have the concept of virality. The fact that, it's an even playing ground. It's an even playing field. I think there's more opportunity than ever. And I think there was a big silver lining that came with this coronavirus pandemic for creatives and entrepreneurs.
I agree. I really agree, man. And I think that there's going to be some people who win on the other side of this, who really take advantage of the internet and the tools that we have. It was kind of fun to see, certain people take advantage of it, like Tory Lanez, quarantine radio, like D Nice, who was just killing it really early on. So I think on the other side, we'll see a lot of winners who are just like, I just hunkered down and created really valuable content and built my audience that way. But I'm also just interested to see, like, what are the social, like, real life human social kind of like maybe epiphanies we have on the other side of this, right? Like, do we realize how much we were taking for granted, like seeing people on the street, being able to hug the homies, and dap people up, like I'm interested to see, like, if there's a consciousness shift alongside this that says, let's spend more time with our loved ones. Let's make sure that, like, we're being mindful of what kind of content we're consuming and, all those things.
I think the last time I saw man was when we were doing the school portraits at REC. We were doing that, and that was the last time I really got to see, like, all the homies, and I was like, damn, I didn't know that would be like the last time that I could see. And I might see, like, Mo in spurts or whoever, like, in spurts, but, like, I haven't been able to be out with the homies and really be like, like, let's go do something, let's go or create outside or something like that. So it's really been also, like, I don't even go out that much, but it's made me miss, like, events, just the buzz.
Yeah.
And
we were spoiled, man.
Right, man. Like,
I will never take a citywide for granted ever again in my life.
I feel you, bro. I feel you. And by the way, I really dug those class pictures. I thought that was super creative, man.
That was all Wayno, man. He came to me with the idea, so shout out to him. He came to me with the idea, and we just really executed it. We had a lot more that we wanted to do. Like, we wanted to do a lot more, but just time restraints and everything like that. We knew the city was going to shut down soon, so we were just like, let's just knock it out when we could get everybody. But they came out wonderfully, man, and they were really well received, and it helped us as a brand just to show, like, our unity and, like, everything that we're doing and who we have a part of this.
Yeah, I thought that was dope. I'll even learn more about the clique through that, man. I saw some folks in the class portraits that I didn't even know was rocking with the gang, and I was like, okay.
We just got branches everywhere. We're just
I got some new draft picks. I see y'all.
All right. So one thing I do want to touch on, early in the days before you guys got the space, a lot of people were, the word I want to use is skeptical about REC and, what could they do? Like, the first time that I heard about you guys, Riley brought it up to me. He was like, I just met this person. They work for this company named REC Philly. And we talked for a little bit. And I think I was just coming back from vacation. So I think you guys had a meeting, but I never met you guys. So I think the first night I met somebody, and somebody from REC, and the first thing I asked was like, what do you guys do? Like, how do you guys help an artist? How do you guys help artists and everything like that? And, I didn't understand it at first until I got to when you guys were on in North, when you guys were at the Window Factory. I didn't understand, but I understand you guys provide a space for artists, and you provide a lot of, I want to say olive branches, but one thing I want to say like olive branch, like you guys connect the dots a lot, and help artists like that. But in the beginning, people were skeptical and just being like, "Yo, they support Philly artists, and why aren't they?" And I think a lot of people thought of you guys as a label, and then like people thought it was a label, and were like, "Oh, like you guys aren't signing artists. You guys aren't like something where you guys are moving like an Atlantic or anything like that. That's not what you guys do." And I think people were getting that confused. So do you want to like just speak on that time? Because I would hear people say Rec Jersey, and I'm like, I don't think that's not it, man. I don't.
Yeah, that was one of my favorites, man. Rec Jersey. But yeah, man, I think you summed it up pretty well. Skeptical, I think, is a good word. And for good reason too, right? Like I'm not out here gonna be like, man, I'm mad no one understood. Like, that's not it. I think when it comes to being in a sensitive space as far as like being in art and in the cultural space, we've had such a crazy history of exploitation, of creatives, of artists. So I think it's understandable that when new things come to the culture, we're like, hold on, let's make sure we vet this. Let's really get a good understanding of what's supposed to be happening here. And I think the challenging part was we developed a model that was new, right? Like there really wasn't anything you could compare it to. And I think sometimes when you have something that's so new and so different, it's really easy to be like, hold on, what is that? It doesn't register into what I know of what's possible or how things are supposed to work, right? So I think we had a little bit of an uphill battle to climb as far as like helping people understand the model, right? Because like you mentioned early on, as soon as we were like, yo, we're supporting artists and creatives, immediately people wanted to put us into that box of, oh, you're a record label, right? You're going to sign me. I'm going to do all, you guys are going to make me famous. We're like, nah, that's not what we do. And they're like, oh, well, then you're obviously a management company, right? Like you're going to manage me and then I'm going to be able to get famous. And I'm like, nah. So it was a lot of just kind of like educating on like, well, how do you guys think about the model? What is it? How do I interact with this thing? Oh, you guys want me to pay a monthly fee for what, right? So it was about educating on, like, I believed in a world where it was like, I believe that if you gave a creative all the tools they needed, the right strategies and access to industry experts and real information for how the business is done, and a community of supportive people who had, similar mindsets and similar visions, I felt like a creative could win just by having access to those things. So that was the model that we presented. And, the closest thing that we could liken it to help people start to understand it was this idea of this is a gym membership for creative people, right? So once we started using that language, people were like, oh, got it, right? So I got to put in the work. I don't get fit from just signing up for the gym. I actually have to show up. I have to use the resources and the tools. And that started to help. So I think that was a bit of it, helping folks just understand the model itself. And then on top of that, I'll be honest, I think the other flaw that I've learned from over the years is like, both my business partner and I, we had the mentality of like, let's just do the work and not really talk, right? And I thought that was the noble way of doing it. But I learned over time that like, that is only good in certain spaces, because at some point, like, people don't really care about the brand as much as they want to know who is behind, right? Like, who are the people who are actually doing this thing and what do they stand for and what do they care about? So at a certain point, I had to be, willing to get a little bit more vocal, put my face out there, talk to some people, let people get to know me, share my personal story, because that all matters in the grand scheme of things. When really, if I had my choice, I could just always stay in the background and just do the work. That's all I care about, is seeing people I care about win. You know what I mean? So,
and I think what's helped you guys clarify that brand and really build something that's lasted all this time is the fact that I think one of the key differences with Rec is that you guys are really cemented in the community very strongly. You guys are like this perfect intersection between an artistic space, a business, and a community organization. And I think those three pieces are very rarely consolidated as well as they are with Rec. And that, that's something that's always been interesting for me, because, just like Sheed was saying, like in the beginning, I didn't really understand what rec was. It felt more like a community organization to me.
Yeah.
But I think you guys have done a great job of clarifying the brand over the years. And I think having the space in the gallery was really symbolic for seeing what you guys were trying to do for the community. Because anyone from Philly understands the significance of the gallery mall, understands the significance.
Baby.
Exactly, right.
You know? Yeah,
that was super dope to see.
And thank you for that, man. Like that idea of, you know, understanding our positioning within art, but also business, right? And then the community vibe. Because like, you know, one of the mantras that we kind of like to champion, you know, early on was like this idea of there was never a place for people like us. So we decided to create one. And when we started to say that, what we really meant by that was like, yo, like as kids, 2012, 2013, 2014, when we were navigating it, right? And my best friend was a hip hop artist and I had homies that were singers. I felt like there literally was nowhere I could go where it was like, yo, where do I go to hang out with the people who care about art, who care about culture? But just as much as they do about that, they also want to take this serious and want to learn the business of art, right? Like they want to understand like how to be an entrepreneur, you know what I mean? And they want to do that with like-minded people. And I felt like it was like, yo, I got to be under the L, you know, at the Saint all night, or I gotta fucking, you know, go to these co-working spaces where nobody looks like me to learn business and learn about startups. So I'm just like, yo, like, where can I go where I feel like I could get the best of both worlds? And I felt it was really hard to find that, you know? So that's where the Window Factory came in, where we got the opportunity to go and build that space at Ninth and Dolphin. And we said, yo, let's just start throwing the events that we wish we could see, you know, where we started bringing people who knew about, you know, licensing and distribution. And we brought thinkers like Sherry Hu and industry professionals like to Ninth and Dolphin, which if you're from Philly, like, you know, we in the mix for real, you know?
In the trenches.
For real. We was in the trenches and but people, they trusted us and they trusted, you know, the brand, and they were willing to climb those 4 flights of stairs in the trenches of North Philly to share what they knew with our community. And that was always really important to us. So yeah, man, I appreciate that.
I mean, we love the Window Factory, man. That was really like
Same.
building block in the building of HBC. Like we spent nights where we would leave that studio like in the morning, like 6
God knows, man. Just trying to figure out what to get to eat, like 5 o'clock in the morning on Ninth and Dolphin.
You like, yo, what do I do now?
Where I go? Like,
you might walk to Sev or something.
Right.
Mo popped the tire. Like we left there. Where we go to Popeyes?
Oh man, we were trying to go to Popeyes, and my tire popped.
Like I did Vogue there. Like
man, it was one of those Broad Street potholes, man.
They real, man. But yeah, I'm really grateful for that building, though, man. I think like that building was so good to us, and like at the core of it, it really helped us do what we wanted to do best, which was like give people space to just be themselves, you know, and give people space to be themselves and have access to tools, right? And like, you know, I'll be honest, the tools we had at that time in the space were nothing crazy, right? Like the interfaces in our studio weren't anything that you guys may not have had at the crib, right? But I think there was something special about being in this like centralized hub where it was like, this ain't our crib, this is a space for us to be creative, connect with other people, you know, and then obviously attend some of the programming and things like that. But the landlords ain't care about nothing over there. So we really had a lot of free reign. And that was what allowed us to prove the model and then have the confidence to go and then raise a couple $1 million to do what we did down at Ninth and Market.
I think being in like that just gave us like urgency to record and, you know, to make some of the best music that we made in there, recording whatever we did. Just when the videos there as well, it was just like, okay, like, hey, like we have this space. Finally, we have a place, even with just a backdrop and where we can just make stuff happen. It was just a great environment, man. Like it felt like something like we could just create in. Like, that Halloween party, that was a great night. Like
that was a great night.
It was a very that spot is very deep in my heart. You know, just I love that place.
And I always had a lot of respect for you guys too, because like you guys used the tools for what they were meant for, and even like push the limits. You know, like I remember seeing videos of yours, and then I'm like, y'all did this in our visual lab? He hanging upside down? What is he hanging on? Like ladders, like.
that was truly a labor of love. Like, I almost passed out a few times, but we got it done.
Facts, yo. But that's what it's for, you know? Like, I love seeing shit like that. I love seeing people just be like, yo, like, let's push the limits, you know, creatively. Even if it was scary at times. Wondering how you guys are balancing on all these different ladders and stools.
Oh, man.
Meetings, and we'd be like, no, we could just shoot it at rec.
You don't know how many times we said that. Like, we could just shoot it at rec.
That's dope, man. That's what it's for. That's what we're here.
How do you feel about the Philadelphia independent underground scene? How do you feel about like just the creatives that are coming up right now since, you know, rec has started to now? Like, I think it's improved greatly. There's a lot of people that are just coming up out of the city that are just, you know, doing something and making, you know, something happen for themselves.
Yeah, man, I'm super grateful, you know, for what I'm seeing, and also just optimistic, man. Like Mo said, I think on a general level, creatives, we're at the beginning of the gold rush, you know, with what we have access to and where we're going. And then specific to Philly, like, I believe we're at the beginning of this renaissance, man. You know, I think what's that? Yeah. Yeah, I think it's very real. And I think, you know, the thing about it is Philly's always had these pockets of really great movements, you know, over time. And I think where we are right now is one that's emerging and it's very refreshing. You know, I think Uzi was kind of, you know, he started a bit of it, and then Tierra came kicking doors open, you know. But what I see now when I think about artists like Orion's Son, you know, who's doing a lot of great things, like, it's just beautiful, man. And I think sonically, the sound is so diverse that, like, it's not true to this, like, Philly sound, quote unquote, right? Where you can just, like, put your thumb on, oh, that person's from Philly. But I think, like, underneath it, the way the music is being made is still true to Philly, which is, like, this communal, yo, let's all come together. Let's really, like, have a bunch of talented people put their focused energy on something and build something that's better than any of the individual parts. You know, and I think that's the way Gamble and Huff did it back in the day. That's the same way the neo soul movement came to fruition. And it came down to, in my opinion, to having these spaces that were dedicated to that, right? Like, Philly International Records had a studio where mother, father, sister, brother could all be, and all these incredible talent, you know, could hang out and riff off each other, find people in passing, you know, between sessions. And then even, like, later, you know, the neo soul movement, they had places like the Black Lily, you know, where they could do open mics, and you know, Jill Scott could be up there and she could run into a Questlove, right? And that could build something really special. So, you know, when I think about rec and where we're going, I just aspire to be another, you know, resource and another tool to help, you know, spur and capture that energy, and just make sure that, like, when, you know, a Moses or a Sheed runs into an incredible videographer, there's a space right away. Yo, let's just go get busy right now, knowing that the things are right there. And I hope that if we can be the spot that just makes it so, like, as soon as inspiration hits, you have everything you need at your fingertips, and there's no distractions. There's no, like, oh, okay, it took me so long to find, you know, a studio to go to. Now I'm not even interested in recording this anymore. I hope that that's just going to keep the momentum up in what's already happening, you know, organically.
I definitely think that internet has provided, you know, this bridging of the gaps between Philadelphia, where, you know, like, we're the quote unquote, I don't want to say weirdos, let's say eclectic artists, and then, you know, the street rappers, and, you know, the hood rappers and everything like that, where they're kind of meeting in the middle. And I think somebody that has helped bridge that gap, definitely Uzi, definitely Tierra. And, you know, it's starting to become this melting pot of, you know, where you could just, yo, man, like, whatever y'all want to do. Like, I know with myself that being able to produce has helped me link with people that, like, I might not make that type of music myself, but I could produce that beat for you, that, you know, what you want to express yourself. So I definitely think, like, the internet, your space, rec has definitely provided that spot. I've definitely met people just going to you guys' spots and being like, oh, you make beats? Oh, hit me up and we'll work.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear that. And the other thing too I want to mention is, like, you know, early on when we start talking about, you know, kind of like the beginning of rec and maybe even a lot of that apprehension, we started off and we were so about music that I think people also were slow to understand that, like, yo, this is bigger than just, like, musicians too, right? Like, we're really passionate about serving not only artists themselves and musicians, but then we're also that space for videographers. We're also that space for podcasters. We're also that space for managers, right? And I think like when you start to think about where else all these different eclectic skill sets could meet and convene, there's very few spots where that could happen. So I'm just like really proud, and I think, obviously being in the new spot at 9th and Market in the fashion district, aka the gallery, that's even opened up the diversity of our membership even more, knowing that now we've got the 14 different studios and there's something a bit for everybody. So I've literally I've started to watch that young talent manager get connected to those artists, and artists start to get to know the authors, and the authors are getting connected to photographers. And that's really what's, I think, the most special. Like, the whole creative economy can have a spot to kick it.
Yeah, and that's something I think is so dope about Philly. Kind of to touch off what you were saying a little earlier, the beautiful thing about Philly is, I guess people would say a good and a bad thing is the size of the city. Like, if you do something creative in Philly, everybody knows you, and there's so many different people doing different things. It's so eclectic, and you're right. There was never really that unifying thread between everything. There's been lots and lots of pockets over time, but what I appreciate about Rec is that it is it is an attempt to unify all those little pockets, and be stronger as a whole than anything else that's popped off previously. And I think that's what's going to give Philadelphia the momentum to really have that renaissance that people have been talking about for years.
Yeah. Again, man, I just think that's who we are as a city, man. I think that's always been our identity. I feel like, the best description of Philly geographically I've ever heard, someone said Philly's the perfect size because it's small enough that you can make a name for yourself, but it's big enough that actually matters,
Wow.
And I thought that was so beautifully put, because that's just what it is. So I've always figured that for us, we saw there were so many clicks and picks. We're gonna keep it a buck, right? There's these artists who only hang out at these venues and they have access to these resources. But then you go across the city, and then all of a sudden you see the DIY scene in University City going crazy with the house shows. And then you realize there's these incredible movements all over the city, but no one's talking to each other. So no one really has everything that they need. So it's at what point will we be able to kind of break down some of those walls and realize this dude actually knows all the venue owners, and this guy, knows some of the label heads, and these guys are crazy on the visual content. So it's just how do we create the dialogue so we can kind of be better together? And I think that's just so true to our statement of independent doesn't mean alone. It's we're all better together for real. If we can just, remove ego, as hard as that is, remove ego for a little bit, and really come to the table as businessmen and figure out how we can grow together.
Beautifully put.
Yeah. And there's room for everybody out here with all their art and all their hot takes, even though your man Sheed has some of the wildest hot takes I've ever seen.
Yo,
art.
What did he say the other day? You said something crazy on Twitter, bro. You said Lauryn Hill is overrated. Can we talk about that?
Please, let's talk about it.
Wait, can we talk about this? Because that's a wild ass take, bro.
Not yet. What the last serious thing I wanted to touch on is just, Will, what's your personal goals?
Look at him dodging this question.
No, I'm not dodging it. I got the smoke for both of you. But what's your goals for this quarantine, man? What do you want to do? What do you want to come out of? This?
Okay. My personal goals, man. So I'll give you two. One, I'm writing a book. I'm working on my first book, which is super exciting. A big labor of love. I've been working on it for way longer than I'd like to admit, but it's just about finished. I'm getting ready to send it to design right now, and I'm really hype on that. So my goal is, whenever this thing is done, I do want to come out of here having my book finished and ready to be published, so I can give it to the world. And essentially what it is, real quick, is it's called Uncommon Sense, Your Strategy Guide to Creative Independence. So over the course of these last couple of years, being in the space that I'm in, I've had the privilege to be close to a lot of creatives, at all different parts of their journey. And essentially I kind of synthesized what are the 10 most important concepts that a creative should understand in order then to then build, engage, and then monetize an audience. So essentially, I just built that, packaged it up real nice. I think it's going to be something that's going to be super powerful for someone to be like, yo, I can use this and really build, you know, from $0 to $60,000 a year by understanding these fundamental business strategies. So I want to get that done, you know, kind of on like the professional tip. But on the personal tip, honestly, man, I think one of the things I've been thinking about a lot during quarantine is just like my level of personal balance, you know, and you know, for me, pre this COVID thing and even maybe like pre a year ago, I had no balance whatsoever, bro. It was just work, you know, the whole never not working thing. I really subscribed to that. And it was almost just like, yo, how do I make sure I'm burning the candle at both ends to get that extra leg up, you know, on competition, to just yada, yada, yada. And, you know, I think there's a time and a place for that. And I think it served its purpose for me. But I think I'm getting to a new phase of my career where now I can kind of take a step back and not think about, oh, how hard are you working, but really think about how smart you're working. And for me, like that takes like, yo, am I really doing the self-care, not just in like, you know, the popular, you know, sense of the word everyone's kind of saying these days, but like really investing in my mental health, the mindfulness piece, you know, just doing the things I got to do to be consistently at 100%. So on the other side of this, I think that's one thing I want to walk away from this with. I don't want to lose the habits I've been able to rebuild during this time. I don't want to lose how much I'm like intentional about, you know, reading, my diet, you know, moving my body, all that kind of stuff. I want to make sure I keep those lessons as we get back into the outside world and the hustle and bustle of everything.
My personal goal is yours, man. That's my goal.
Wait, well, your personal goal is what?
Beard like yours, bro. Like that's.
Listen, bro, I got faith in you, dog.
But no, that's great, man. I'm pretty excited for the book.
Thanks, man.
You know, yeah, it is important for people, especially people in your position, to just find that balance, man. Because shit like this could happen, and it'll make you sit down and be like, damn, like, what am I gonna do? And you know, it's just it makes you appreciate more. All right.
You can't pour from an empty cup, man. I'm learning that.
All right, man. Listen.
Facts.
Hell is overrated, and this is why.
Whoa.
All right, state your case, bro. State your case.
I'm all ears, bro.
I'm not saying Miseducation is overrated. That is a perfect album. Agreed.
Okay.
Doing it once to me is just not enough for me to be like, oh, you're on this, you know, tier that we put her on, and it's like, yo, like.
So are we not counting the score? 2.
No, I can't count it.
Hold on.
Yes, you can.
But you just hold on.
Fugees. I mean the Fugees. I'm sorry. I'm fucking wilding.
This guy. Yeah, you wilding. You've been wilding.
you might have overstated it.
The Fugees. I count everything with the Fugees, but a lot of people haven't even heard the Fugees, and to me, they put it all on Miseducation, and to me, like, well, you follow sports. Okay.
I'm gonna give myself like a mediocre sports fan. I'm not a diehard. But go ahead.
This, man, like one good season, one MVP season doesn't make you a legend to me. In that case, it doesn't make me. It doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Let me put it like, it doesn't make you on the tier of Michael Jordan. You could be a legend, but you're not that. And that's where I think people put her on this tier of like, on that pedestal. And to me, like, as a fan and as like a critic, it's just like, yo, like, you gotta do more for me to really, really put you in that situation. Not
okay.
Miseducation is perfect. Miseducation is perfect. Her work with the Fugees, great.
All right.
I'm just not going to put that.
Okay. So with context, I have a smidgen more respect for your opinion, but I think you're downplaying the idea that she put out a perfect album. Like, there's so many artists, even the artists that we love, that will never give us a perfect album.
Would you rank her above Drake? I don't think Drake has a perfect album, but or an album better than Miseducation, but would you rank her ahead of Drake? Would the perfect album put her ahead of Drake?
What is the category that we're ranking?
Just on ranking legendary status. Is she a legend ahead of Drake? Is that something?
No, I'm not going to say she's ahead of Drake because we're talking about a pack of goats right now, right? Like,
oh, absolutely. So, she's a legend. She's done a lot for rap for women.
Yeah, and that's the piece too, right? We got to talk about not only like the number of output, right? She gave us a really great album, but then the cultural impact, I think, trumps a lot of what we're talking about here.
That's so important. Like we got to look at impact, influence. You know what I'm saying? One album can be worth 10.
But was she more impactful than Lil' Kim?
That's a tough one, but I'm going to argue that she's up there and they're neck and neck in cultural impact to a different group of women. But I think Lauryn Hill, like, honestly, if we're going to talk about female MCs, like, Lauryn was really putting on in a time where women weren't putting on the way she was. And then also to be a phenomenal vocalist and to also be a crazy pen and to be speaking such truth at a time where, like, that was so important for our identity, for the way our women saw themselves and all that. Like, you can't sleep on what Lauryn Hill meant to Black people.
I'm not sleeping on it. I just think that where we put her and where we rank her in that situation, in like her case, I personally just would have loved more albums, just so that.
Y'all would.
That's all I'm saying. So I can't put you in that because you weren't consistent, in my opinion. You know, just going.
Yeah.
To me,
I hear that.
But you know what? I think the fact that she stopped when she did is part of what cements the legend. It's like the Chappelle Show was so great, but if we had 5 more seasons, would it have been as great?
Good point. But the Chappelle Show had more than one season. That's all I'm saying, bro. And then
That's different.
Other things. Chappelle did other things. Again, I'm not discrediting her work. Miseducation, perfect. Chappelle Show, perfect show.
Hold on.
Chappelle did more.
Hold on. So are you also not putting Biggie in your top 10?
No, Biggie's in my top 10. He has multiple bodies of work that are great, freestyles, videos. His cultural impact is a lot heavier, and his relevance to me is also what I put that in as well. All these are just That's
interesting.
Okay. That is interesting because he really only had one official album.
Right, and then the rest were just
was post
done before Life After Death was done. He just died before the release date, but it was done though. It wasn't recorded, and they didn't splice vocals up for that album. That album was done.
That was his. Okay, I'll give you that. So, all right, I'm gonna let you live on this. Let's move on to hot take number 2. You said some crazy shit, bro.
Oh no, Mo backed me up on this one. Take Care isn't a classic.
Oh yeah, it's not a classic.
Have y'all listened to it?
Listen. The cultural component is there, but the music sure ain't.
That's all. Right. The music hasn't stood the test of time.
It has not aged well. It has not aged well. If if I had to pick a Drake classic, it's Nothing Was the Same for me.
Nothing was
really.
Wow. Yeah, that one really has stood the test of time. The presentation, the records.
You're reading This Is Too Late is also a classic. I think that is the album that really cemented Drake as, Drake.
It's a classic to you? And not Take Care? I don't know, y'all. Like, when I'm sitting here, I'm going to pull up this album just in case y'all forgot. Just in case y'all forgot what's on this, John. Like, we're talking.
Hold on. Let me make this clear before I do.
Go ahead.
Not a classic doesn't mean that it's not good. It is a good album, but it's just not a classic. And I think.
Hold on. This is not a conversation about good. This is a conversation about great and above.
It's a great album. I'll give it a.
Okay. So I'm gonna just start with a B-side.
Okay.
Are you telling me that records like The Ride are not phenomenal? Oh my God.
It doesn't warrant classic status though. Like it.
Man, we're talking about. Let me just remind you what's on this album. right? We're talking about Take Care with Rihanna, Headlines, We'll Be Fine, Doing It Wrong, Look What You've Done. These are phenomenal records. We got 20 records on this song. Marvin's Room. You guys don't think this is warranted to be a classic album of Drake's?
Nah, those songs just don't stand.
I think it was his most important album, but I don't think it was his best, and I don't think it's a classic. Like, every artist has an album that cemented them, and this is that album for him. But I don't think it's his
magnum opus.
What's it called? Magnum opus.
So you don't think he's ever gonna have one?
No, I think Nothing Was the Same was it. I think If You're Reading This Is Too Late is a classic as well. Just the impact of that.
He still got time as well. I
well.
think we're gonna be hearing Drake for probably the next 10, 15 years.
This was garbage.
Wow.
I think he's still gonna be going.
That's crazy, bro. I don't know, man. I just feel like it's one of those albums for me. Like, there's so many records in here that have been so important to like moments in my life where like I feel like that's what a classic album is for me. Like, if you could throw in an album and it just puts you back where you were the first time you heard it, there's been so much meaning built up behind these records. Mm-hmm. I just think that like that's it. But at the same time, maybe I'm also a couple years older than you guys, so maybe I just think about it different.
When did it
but
drop?
In college, what's that?
When did it drop? 2011?
2011.
I was a sophomore in high school.
All right, so that might be different because I was in college when this John dropped.
No, but like a lot of people in high school get on me about it. Like, oh, you don't think it's a classic? And I'm just like, like it's a great album. It's just like I wouldn't listen to it today. I wouldn't listen to it. Like when I listened to it the first time, it was great. It spoke to me, you know, teenage emotions. I was sad about a girl once, I guess, but like.
Stop it.
All right, now you're getting a little wild, bro.
Right, I'm about to say, because as much Twitter beef I be seeing on my timeline coming from She.
He said I was in love with a. No, listen to a Drake album. I was sad once.
It is a great album.
All right. Let me ask you something. What was more impactful, Take Care or Man on the Moon?
Definitely Man on the Moon.
Yeah, I gotta give you Man on the Moon too. The Man on the Moon also because of just what that meant for me as a young boy at that time. But honestly, like I would, if Man on the Moon was top tier, Take Care for me is just one tier below that. Like,
question.
I'm a Cudi stan though.
Question. Is Take Care more impactful than House of Balloons?
Yes.
Although House of the Balloons was special.
Even though House of Balloons
is
House of Balloons changed R&B like that, where this whole mysterious, you know, filtered drums and where Drake, you know, kind of took that for Take Care.
The Toronto sound.
Yeah, we all know that, like, you know, The Weeknd had a heavy hand in Take Care.
Absolutely, but I would say that House of Balloons is a classic. It changed so much in music.
I feel like Abel was to Take Care what Cudi was to 808s.
That's interesting.
But I think 808s is better than Man on the Moon, though.
Say it again?
I think 808s is better than Man on the Moon, personally.
Wait,
that's tough.
That's a tough question. But which dropped first? One. Did Take Care drop first, or did House of Balloons drop first?
House of Balloons. House of Balloons came out 2010.
2010, right before. Okay. I mean, I see the influence there, and I think the statement of how influential that was for like R&B, I think is really strong. But I think the one thing that Drake has the ability to do is he takes sounds that are like bubbling in subcultures and he brings them mainstream. And I mean, you can debate whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I think Drake did that. And like,
it's a great thing. I think it's a great thing. People will take that. Like, you gotta stay hip to what's going on. I mean, like Hov took Philly whole sound for a minute. Like you really gotta stick to what's going on. Like, you gotta be in tune. If you stick to your own sound, like, yes, you'll cater to your core fan base, but you kind of just, you know, not shelve yourself, but you stop at a certain point. You stop, you know, growing and expanding and, you know, becoming a better artist, I think.
Yeah. And one of the things I think is important when we talk about like these, like, you know, legendary people and the greats, like, we got to talk about their impact and their contribution to culture. And I think Drake, you know, if we're going to talk about him for a second, like, he's honestly been one of the most influential artists of our time, not just as an artist, but then also as an A&R. You know what I'm saying? Like, Drake has made so many careers based off of records he's just jumped on and changed somebody's life.
The Drake cosign does
absolutely
so much for artists. Like,
it speaks to so much of his legacy. Like, for me personally, one of the characteristics that defines a GOAT is how many artists you introduce us to. Like, you know, think about how many, part of the impact of Kanye, part of the impact of Wayne, you could say Jay even, like, is the artist that they introduced us to. I'll put Thug in a similar category. You know, he's introducing us to a lot of artists. Like, I saw something where they had like a video chopped up where they had footage of both Gunna and Baby in early videos from like 2014, 2013, like, and to just see what they've become now for the culture based off of what he valued them to be.
That's real.
That says something a lot about their contribution. Think about how many artists has Drake put us onto?
A lot.
Many. He essentially he took a big role in birthing the entire
Toronto.
this entire generation. Like, all the kids sound like Drake.
Yeah, 100%.
Do they?
What, Sheed?
Do they sound like Drake?
I think Drake created the genre that they all want to be in.
Kids now, or like, what do you mean by that, Mo? Like, the kids now? Because to me, the kids now sound like, I don't know, like Uzi, Cardi, Thug. Like, Thug has, I definitely think that there was a time that, you know, Drake, when you came out, you had to come out with that.
I think what he did was he created the template for the way that a lot of music sounds today. The way that music is melodic and conversational is a very big. Like, you'll admit that's a very big piece of like how a lot of modern music sounds right now. It's very melodic. It's very conversational. It's
and emotional.
Exactly, emotional.
Niggas was not rapping about their emotions pre-Drake for real.
That's true.
Right.
Not on the high level.
Not like that. No,
we used to laugh at Ja Rule for doing what
Drake is doing. That's
for what Drake's doing.
That's absolutely.
That's a fact.
LL Cool J used to get ripped for having sensitive rap songs.
Now, when you
not who did it first, it's who did it right, though.
Now, when you say that, though, when you say that Drake has provided that, where do you give Ye credit in that situation, though? Because 808s happened before that, and you know it took a minute for people to catch up to 808s. Me being a Ye fan, I'm like, yo, no, it's fire, it's classic. But you know, to the masses, I think Drake had to happen for people to appreciate what 808s was. So.
I think that's a good point. But I think the way Ye did it was he brought everyone over to his bag and said, yo, we're in this 808s bag right now, right? And I think he did that again with Yeezus, right? And it was super punk. And he brought us all the way into his world. I think Drake did the opposite, where he was like I'm bringing this shit to front of center, and y'all are just going to fuck with it because this is now the new norm. I think there's a slight difference there, right? Like, Kanye took the artsy approach. Drake took the kind of like, I don't know, I don't want to call it like this like super corporate-y approach, but he kind of just was like, yo, sorry, I'm creating the new mainstream.
Okay.
But that's something I miss about the Ye era. The fact that it was a cultural shift every time this man dropped a new song for a project. You know what I'm saying? When Love Lockdown dropped, everyone was like, what the fuck is this?
Mm-hmm.
I miss that. We don't see that as much anymore. We don't see big artists taking risks like that as much. And as much as I love Drake, I miss the risks that
Drake hasn't taken a risk in a long time.
He doesn't take risks.
Take risks.
He makes revenue.
Right.
He might be a bar.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hit me up, Drake.
I mean, I get it. You kind of got to play it safe with that situation. You kind of got to play it safe with that situation. No, but I think with Ye, though, like with Yeezus, like the cultural impact of Yeezus is still being felt, man. Like, I think hip hop is still in this punk era. Just of like it's so anti lyricism. It's so anti just like, oh, y'all want me to rap like this, but I'm not going to. Like, I'm gonna just have fun. It's gonna be distortion. It's gonna be so much fun in it, and like people are so like afraid of it, I would say, and just so like against it that it makes it more you want to do it. It's a fun movement, man. I love that.
Anti-polish,
the distortion, the eights being so overpowering, and like just to me it's great music, but I understand why people don't like it. It's so like it's unpolished.
Yeah, I mean, let me just be the old nigga for a second. I think it's great that people are expressing themselves in all these different ways. But I do think it's also opened up a opportunity for people who don't love the culture to come in and have their way. And I think that's the epitome of what's happening with like a 6ix9ine, because we've lowered our standard of like, yo, rappers really gotta rap, right? Like we gotta change the standard of, you know what I'm saying? I think now it's like people who can come in as hobbyists and now carve a lane for themselves, where that just used to not be the case, right? Like I saw a tweet when like somebody was like, yo, I missed the days where if you couldn't rap, you wouldn't rap. But now like that's out the window. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we'll let anyone come out and put verses off and get songs off, to the point where like 3 months later, they can just be like, for real, I'm over this hip hop thing. And like, that's okay. And it's like, what part of the game is that? Like, I never, as a lover of hip hop and like a lover of this culture that's made a way out for so many of us, that's like created, livelihood shifts for so many of us. I don't like this whole, it's okay to be a hobbyist and come in and just mess around, right? Where you got niggas calling themselves Rich Chigga. You got, Miley Cyrus hopping in, putting a toe in for a second. I think that's the only downside to this new wave, where it's just like it's almost so accessible that it's too accessible. And I think that.
I think what's interesting is that hip hop is in a very different space than it ever has been as well. It's bigger than rock and roll. It is the largest genre of music in the world. You could, some would say even in history. I would. It's the biggest genre in history. And at this point, there's a lot more people keep in mind than just culture. One of the benefits of it being I don't want to say like a subculture, but like a culture off the mainstream before, was that there was more room for risk. When, as you would know as a businessman, when you have shareholders, you can't shake the pot too much all the time. You know what I mean? As more money comes into music, as Spotify streams become more important, as merch bundles become more important, people stop shaking the table as much. And that's something that I personally don't like as much about this era. The fact that everyone's just trying to go viral. You know what I mean? Like it's about, everything is numbers based, everything is streaming based, everything is about revenue, everything is about getting that gold plaque, that platinum plaque. It's becoming more commodified than ever. And I miss times where people would just do shit because it was unpopular and not care about streams, not care about how many subscribers they were going to lose, how many followers they were going to lose. Yeah. Or people were doing shit because of how many followers they would gain, i.e. 6ix9ine. Like it's become like wrestling, like in a sense, like IG Live, people like artists like Blueface, artists like 6ix9ine, Boom Gang, like the culture has become a parody of itself in a lot of ways. And do you think?
I think just one thing we have to kind of make a distinction between is like we have two simultaneous cultures emerging at the same time, and one of them is the growth of hip hop culture, and the other is just like the growth of internet culture. And I think because hip hop culture is so big, internet culture is almost like trying to ride the wave of hip hop culture, and I think that's where like a Boom comes in, right? Or like honestly, even like a Blueface. Like I think Blueface is just like an internet kid who is trying to find his way out through what he knows, more than I think of him as like a hip hop lover who really wanted to express himself to really like, you know what I'm saying?
But it's like that expression, a wise man and a fool argue from the distance and no one can tell the difference. it's similar. You know what I'm saying? Like the people that are paying attention to the culture, 6ix9ine fans, they're not the purists that the hip hop fan was 15, 20 years ago. So it's like, it's a completely different demographic that's being catered to than before. And that's why I feel like it's less pure.
The excitement of 6ix9ine is just like, it's really the chaos. Like you tune in, like I expected his song to chart as high as it did because people want to see the circus. Everybody wants to see the circus. But you know, the thing with that is the circus has to come up with new attractions. So as you can see, he's struggling. Like he's in Maxo Cream's comments, just trying to agitate him and agitate thing and just keep it going. And the worst thing you could do is give that attention. You really have to just to starve that. As far as Blueface goes, man, I think that was a happy accident. I don't think anybody really expected Blueface to go dummy like that. Like I know when I was watching the videos, I just laughed because like he was so offbeat and he was just saying the wildest things. So of course you want to be like, yo, look at this. It's almost in the same vein as, well, no, it's not in the same vein. It's almost like what's the guy that was singing but he can't sing?
Ice JJ Fish.
Ice JJ Fish. But the crazy thing about Ice JJ Fish is
internet culture. Yeah.
But the crazy thing is, if you listen to what he's saying, they're not bad songs. Like if he was a writer, they could work. But but he's doing.
Wait, real quick. Ice JJ Fish or Lauryn?
Chill.
You gotta.
Yo, I hope Miss Lauryn sees this, yo. Just come smack this shit out.
I hope this influences.
No, bro, we need a collab.
Prove me wrong, for real. But I do agree with that. Internet culture, especially because it's just so, there's no rules on the internet. It's definitely like infecting hip hop culture and just, you know, making shit just like, it's gross kind of. But with that being said, if an artist like 6ix9ine was happening, would Rec like get behind that? Like if he wanted to work with you guys and do anything with that, would you guys support that type of thing?
I mean, I look at it this way. It's twofold. The short answer is no. But I think it's more nuanced than that, right? Like if this nigga was just moving around in the city, he was doing his thing and he was a member and just using the resources, like again, we don't step in and say what good art is and what it isn't, right? We're just a space to give you access to what you need. Right. In that realm, yeah. But would we go out of our way to put them on shows and like do the things that we can from a resource standpoint, you know, that isn't promised within membership? Absolutely not. And for me, that comes down to like, you know, I am passionate about putting on for artists that are not only great artists and talent, but also people that I think are good for the world. And you know, we have a platform and, you know, being at the helm of it, we have the ability to just make that stance, right? And I just don't think he's good for the world. I don't think he's good for culture. So I would not want to give him any sort of extra attention or push or backing. Just because, man, he's literally like, when I think about the artists that are feeding into the destruction of the Black community, he's waving the flag, man. And I don't think he gets it, you know? I don't think he gets it at all. But I think it's true. So like for me, man, I would want to, you know, represent and push a Russ over a 6ix9ine any day, right. You know, just because of the type of energy they're putting out to the world.
To me, the most disgusting part of that man is for him to put multiple Black people away, multiple Black men away, and for him to continue to publicly shout nigga and that's one of the most disgusting parts of it, bro. Like to me, that's just so disgusting and so nasty and just so like, it's just so gross, man. I just don't even want to talk about that guy. Like it's so disgusting.
Yeah, but hold on, but I think we have to take it just one step further than that. I think everything you said is true and it's gross. But I think the other thing that's happening is his audience, who is predominantly 9th, 10th graders, white suburban kids, he's bringing a culture to them that they have no understanding about, no relation to, right? When we talk about gang culture, we talk about, you know, all the blood shit. Like I remember, I'll never forget, bro. I remember I went to Made in America a couple years ago. 6ix9ine got on stage and he just got on stage and started screaming Treyway.
I was at that one.
Right? And you remember there were literally it was a stampede of little white girls screaming Treyway, running towards the stage. And I'm just like, yo, like, these kids have no idea of what you're talking about. They don't understand gang culture. They don't know what they're throwing up with their hands. They don't know what they're saying. And I think it just makes a mockery of all those things. And I'm not, I'm not defending gang culture or anything like that or glorifying it, but like, there are communities in our world and in our community that understand where that comes from. Like, people living and dying off of these gang signs, living and dying off these colors. Like, so I think it just does such a disservice to like what those things mean and the symbols attached to them when you have these people who don't understand it, just making a mockery, and it just gives more ammo for people who don't understand our culture to want to say, oh, well, black on black crime. Mm-hmm. Without any sort of credence to all of the institutional factors that play into that.
Well, so, I was talking, me and the gang were talking about it the other day, and we were discussing that, the downside of this punk era is that there's nobody to say that, like, yo, snitching isn't cool per se. Like, that snitching isn't cool, that, doing the crime with these people and, glorifying it and doing everything like that is and then to go and tell on them is not cool. It's not sturdy. Like, growing up you had Cam, who was like, yo, I'm not snitching. Diddy was wearing the stop snitching shirt and everything like that. And it wasn't to glorify doing wrongdoings, but
there is a code to
it. There's a code to it. Why do you think that? Like, do you think that the lack of substance in music is what is, making these suburban white kids and even kids that are not even suburban, just, never been exposed to it? Do you think that has just been the lack of substance and the lack of telling kids like a code? Do you think that is why like 6ix9ine, these astronomical numbers that he's doing? Like,
I think it's a little bit more challenging to that, because I'm not going to say that music doesn't exist. Right? Like, when you listen to, and Meek is doing his best at trying to like carry the flag for and even when I've listened to artists that like I really resonate with, like, even like ones I don't really resonate, like a Maxo Cream, like I love what he represents. Boogie out of the West Coast right now, like I love what he represents. Like, so I think the substance is out there, but I think when like you hold up a carrot and a piece of candy to a kid, they're going to take the candy, right? And I think the ability to be brought into our culture, so to speak, but only with the candy, I just don't think that we're doing a good job at letting folks know, like, this ain't actually hip hop. This is this other thing that's making a mockery of hip hop. And it's actually a different genre altogether. But again, from the outside looking in, you can't tell what's real and what's not. And that's I think the problem with internet culture. Like, the saddest thing is there's probably kids in the burbs that, like, when you ask them who the best rappers out right now are, like, they might genuinely think that 6ix9ine is in that conversation. They might genuinely think that, like, insert all these artists who I don't care to give any attention to are like the prominent figures in our culture, when really, they don't actually get any respect from the real ones.
And you know what? They'll give you the reason, and it'll have nothing to do with rapping. It'll have nothing to do with rap. They'll be like, yo, like, he's the best. Look at his numbers. Look at the people. Like, look, he has all these songs on Billboard. Not understanding how Billboard does things and how Billboard works, and not understanding the business of it. So,
and I gotta just say this too, man. And I don't want to go down like the whole conspiracy theory rabbit hole, but like, I do think the glorification of gangster rap in the early '90s was a thing, right? And I think 6ix9ine just became a pony that, the new wave of that same idea could come back, where it's like, all right, cool, we're gonna throw in this guy he's gonna fucking put on all the makeup, he's gonna fucking be the clown for us to be able to drive the agendas that we have. And I think it's just like, we just need to be more of our culture.
One of my last things I want to circle back onto, we brought up artists not understanding the business and internet culture, and all these artists are signing 360 deals and deals that are going to put them in debt, not understanding that, you know, when a label gives them 10 million, that's a loan. That's not that's your album. Do you think is Brett going to offer something to help these, you know, emerging Philadelphia artists understand that, hey, when a label says, oh, we're going to sign you for 10 million, that 10 million goes to your budget of what your album needs to do, and your sales need to reflect that and everything like that. So how does Rec plan to helping, you know, gain?
Yeah, for sure. So I think we're already fighting this battle. Like our workshops and all the educational programming we do is really all about demystifying the whole industry and the business of art, right? Because for when we all start out, we love to make music. None of us really understand it. But that's why we're so like passionate about bringing industry experts to come and share the stories. You know, I'm quick to bring Carl Folks in, an entertainment lawyer, to break down these deal structures, how they really look on paper. It's important. You think the book, well, you know, 10 chapters, 8 of them I wrote. 2 of them were guest written by Carl, just because I didn't want to try to speak to the legal stuff that, you know, people have gone to school and studied and practiced, where they can speak much, you know, more specifically to. So the book is going to help, I think, just show people that, like, yo, the label route isn't the only way. And again, even when I say it, I don't even necessarily like demonize labels, because I do think there is still a time and a place for labels, and they do a very specific thing. But I help people understand that, like, if that thing ain't what you want and what you need, then there is an alternative, and you can do it yourself. I don't even demonize 360 deals, because I believe there's a space and a time for 360 deals to be proper. But it's all about just, do you actually know what you're signing? Do you understand the responsibilities on both sides of the page, you know, when you enter into that sort of partnership or agreement? But my whole thing is, one, will there be more clarity for artists based off the information that we're providing? I think the answer is yes. And then 2, once you have that clarity, do you know what to do with it to actually put that into action to then make money on your own terms? And I think that answer is also going to be yes. So that's kind of what I would hope that our contribution is. And also, you know, I think building the community we're building, I just want to normalize independent creative culture a little bit more, right? Because I think right now it's like, you think of independent musicians, you think starving artists, right, and then you think like Chance the Rapper, but there's so much in between there. And I think it's important for us to kind of just like shine light on that and celebrate the process and not just the start and the end.
Anything you want to add, Mo?
Yeah, just to kind of reiterate, you know, there's no better time for creative entrepreneurship than right now. And, you know, I think it's really important to educate artists as there's more opportunities. You know, the fact that kids can go viral now and very, very quickly be put in a position that they're way in over their heads about, you know. I'm sure you guys have seen the occurrence of artists, you know, dancing on label tables. Like it really is, I hate to see it, but it's like really, it's really an example of the position that the internet puts a lot of creatives in, especially young creatives. It allows the artists like 6ix9ine to become popular. There is not, it's really the death of regionalism. You know, everyone can pop in their own corner, but once they do pop and it goes global, a lot of artists are put into a position they're not really ready for. You know, they may be ready on the music side, but you know, as any artist that sticks around and keeps making music for longer than a few years realizes, there's so much more to music than just the music. And as artists get more opportunities, there needs to be more education. And I think that, you know, that's one thing that's gonna help the creative community grow into a stronger place. We, you know, consume better content and educate ourselves better, less candy, as you would say.
Yeah, man. And I gotta say this too, man. I think if nothing else, I want Rec to be a vehicle that just reminds creators that all the power is in their hands. You know, like when we watch those videos of the artists dancing on the label tables and all this, like, makes my stomach turn, man. But really, it's because this is a young person from the hood who like is in a position where they feel like, yo, I got to give this all I got because the people around this table can change my life, right? And I think that makes sense, and I understand it deeply, right? There was once upon a time where I was trying to get my friends to get to those label tables, but now that we have the internet, you got to remember, like, yo, it might take longer. It might be like the fucking crock pot approach to the slow boil, but like, we literally have everything we need to be successful. It just might take some longer YouTube, late nights digging through this information. It might take, you know, putting out 100 records week after week as opposed to getting hot off one single. But the success is going to be that much sweeter knowing that you did it on your own terms. You didn't have to sacrifice your integrity to get it. And for real, like, you're in control through and through in a real way. So I hope that we become a vehicle for like, yo, it can be done. You can do it on your own terms. And if you do it the right way, you're going to see that the upside's much greater than being a fly-by-night artist that gets hot off of something they don't even believe in.
Word. I agree with everything.
Well put.
Last question before we get out of here, man. What are you watching nowadays? What's now that you have the time, what are you watching? Are you watching?
Yeah, I've been watching some stuff. So like just on like a just whatever kind of fluff TV. I've been watching All American. I put that on Netflix. You heard of it?
I gotta check that out.
It's good, yo. I ran through that joint pretty quickly. I thought that was good quality storytelling. But then outside of that, man, I'm a nerd, so like I'm in documentaries heavy. So like I'm really deep in. I like this professor. His name's Jeremy Rifkin. He talks about third industrial revolution, which I think is good for all creatives to be thinking about. I'm gonna post some on my Instagram about it this week. But he talks about this idea that like, yo, the old way of thinking about business was you had to go find these raw materials, get them out of the ground, add some value to it to put them in the shape of a product, and then go ship them to people. But like people like us, man, we literally can create products and create value out of ideas. They don't take any real raw materials. They don't take the transportation and the gas to get them halfway across the world for someone to be able to use them. So when you think about the upside of what a creator like us can create out of our brains, and then it costs no more money for you guys to get your record to one additional person. It costs no more money for you guys to get your music video for one more person to be able to watch that and enjoy it. This idea of zero marginal cost, like no more money to create one more of that thing, makes it so if we own what we create, it is literally all upside. And I think that's what gets me so excited about this idea of like being at the beginning of the gold rush. Because at what other time in the world can we just like create something, put it on the internet, go to sleep, wake up and make money, you know, and literally don't have to ask anyone for permission to do that. So that's the kind of shit that I'm watching all the time. Maybe one of these days I'll put together like a YouTube playlist of like shit I nerd out about.
That'd be dope.
Guys, this was great. This is one of my favorite ones that we've done.
It's a great talk. Very enlightening.
Definitely doing part 2 when everything, you know, comes back and it starts to build back up and, you know, starts to become open again.
Yeah.
I had a blast. You guys are amazing. Lauryn Hill is still overrated. Take Care is still not
again. Yo, when I meet Lauryn Hill, I'm gonna get a video and I'm gonna be like, yo, you gotta tell this man that he's drawing. I defended you. I told him what it was.
Gotta play this interview.
You guys have a great night. Thank you guys.
Yeah, appreciate y'all. Yeah, this is dope.
Thank you.
Mo.
Yo.
Gotta figure out who our next guest is.
We sure do.
We'll talk about that in our text messages. Don't figure that out. I'm still recording. So anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. You know the drill. Later.